Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 7th of March. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined by a full squad this morning. Firstly, Joshua Barrie. How are we doing, Joshua?
Yeah, good, Derek. Good to be here.
And Jonny McFarlane also joins us. How are we getting on, Jonny?
Good. Looking forward to talking about Rangers this morning. Feels like it's been a while since the last game, although it was only 36 hours ago, but geez, time flies fast in Scottish football.
Yeah, well, it was an unconventional 3 o'clock on a Saturday. I think they're an absolute rarity these days. It was good to get Rangers back playing on a Saturday afternoon. Before we look back at that game, folks, if you're watching us on YouTube, remember, if you hit that subscribe button, it means you'll never miss a video when we go live. And we've also got that fantastic offer on the website just now. I urge you all to take advantage of it before it's too late. Just £1 for 2 months worth of content. It really is a fantastic offer we've got on. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to find out all the details. You'll find coverage of Rangers that you won't find anywhere else. So I'd very much encourage you to go and check it out. Only £1 for 2 months worth of content. Okay, let's look back at the game on Saturday. Joshua, you were there for us. A momentous day, of course, for the club, the 150th anniversary. Great scenes outside, party atmosphere. The fan zone, I think, was terrific. I'd want that every game, to be honest. If I'm being entirely honest, you get that down south at the Premier League grounds, and I think Rangers really should look at doing that more often. However, on the pitch, the display by the Union Bears was sensational. On the pitch, the performance, not so much. It took a Roofe substitution to get the match-winning goal in the 81st minute. You were there for us, Joshua. What were your main takeaways from the game?
Yeah, we'll echo the credit to the Union Bears and everyone who organised that display, because it was just incredible. Really, it kind of went up about 10 minutes before kickoff, so you got a glance at it, and depictions of a lot of famous moments of the club's history. So that was absolutely fantastic. The tempo after that was just flat. I think the main takeaway, Derek, is Rangers didn't really play with tempo or start chasing the game until they were in late winner territory, and that's dangerous. Van Bronckhorst said that Aberdeen's energy made it hard. They made a switch at halftime, allowing Tavernier kind of more attacking freedom, and that was the reason for the improvement. But Rangers on the ball, I thought they just really lacked tempo. When Ryan Jack was getting the ball, there was no one ahead of him. There was no real movement, and as I say, when you don't start well, or when you have a first half that's below par, you put yourself in a bit of a difficult situation. You require a late winner, as Roofe popped up to do. But just as was the case with St Johnstone midweek, 3 points, and no one will care if Rangers get 8 more of those between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, Jonny, Scott Arfield spoke afterwards, of course, saying that it's all about results at this stage. The performance was there against Motherwell and Dundee United, but the results weren't. The last 2 games have been a tough watch at times, but I guess you would take those every single day of the week.
Yes, of course you would. This is football, and the results are everything. I would say, though, Derek, I'm a little bit more concerned sitting here today than I was after the Dundee United game, because perhaps it's my background, but when I used to work in sales, I was always told, look after the performance, make sure you're doing the right things, and the sales will follow. And I kind of always believed that in football, and that's become a kind of modern coach parlance, isn't it? If the performance is good, if the performance is consistent, we know the results will come. And watching Rangers on Saturday, found it very difficult to sit here and pretend that was a good performance or an acceptable performance, despite the result. I just didn't think much was created. Aberdeen looked quite comfortable for the vast majority of the game. I'll be honest, I thought the game was heading for a 0-0 draw, because just there was very little spark about the team. Now, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst said after the game that he thought they were better in the second half. They were. But I thought the final ball, guys, dreadful in so many circumstances, on so many occasions. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst can't be happy with that. And James Tavernier, who we all know has been an unbelievable player, an unbelievable creator for Rangers. He was one of the worst for it on Saturday. I thought some dreadful crosses, and just generally, it was just that decision in the final thirds. It really wasn't good at all. You saw finally the goal did come from a moment of magic, I think, from Ryan Kent. People will talk about the ball into the box from Tavernier. No, it wasn't Tavernier who put the ball.
Kamara.
Sorry?
Kamara.
But it was prior to even Kamara getting on the ball. I thought it was Kent when he committed 4, 5, 6 players to get the ball out wide. The cross goes in, Barrie brings it back in, Kamara brings it back in. I'm going back a few phases of play, but there was very few moments like that where someone actually, went past the player. And we saw Kamara do that in the second phase of play after with the goal. So there just was a lack of invention, I thought, and Rangers will have to do better. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, Joshua, what do you make of this comment from James McInnes, who gets in touch? He says, it's apparent to me that we have to start with a Jack Lundstrom pairing going forward. Of course, Kamara was in there. Some comments saying he slowed the play down. I know he's, as you mentioned, set up that ball in for the goal. What do you make of that point from James?
I think at times he does. There was that one moment in the first half where he rolled a player. Twice he released Kent quickly, but it kind of is few and far between with Kamara. I do think sometimes he slows the game down. And the frustration is when he uses, and I guess that's the good example for the goal, he did make the impact. When he can add tempo with the talent, I think I put in my colour piece from the game, he is pretty unplayable. But I don't think that comes naturally to him, which is why I think a more possession-based style under Gerrard, where you're building up slowly, suited him, as opposed to the job he's been asked to do just now. Lundstrom, I think, was just being rested. Van Bronckhorst was asked about that in the press conference after. But I don't think the balance is as good. I do think that the shape changed slightly again in the last couple of games to more of a 4-3-3, and I think Rangers look more stale when it's a little bit more rigid in the 4-3-3, because if teams can deal with the runs over the top, there's just not enough ways to get the ball into the attacking third, and then it becomes slow and there's not enough runs, and it just becomes the kind of lethargic performance that we've seen against Dundee United at home, that we've seen against Livingston at home. I think the reason you didn't see that as much against Hearts and Hibs, although they came out a little bit more, is that Rangers had a slightly different shape than the Jack Lundstrom relationship, although sometimes Lundstrom will sit a bit more and Jack will go higher. I think Jack, firstly, is a really good ball carrier and is quite direct with his ball carrying from the middle of the pitch, but also they just have a better chemistry. And it's the same with Lundstrom and Kamara as well. I think it is probably just Ryan Jack is within the system seems to be pretty important at the moment. On Jonny's point on Tavernier, I did think Tavernier was the real player that drove Rangers forward in that second half. His final ball wasn't great, but again, it was a good 2 tactical switches from Van Bronckhorst. Firstly, to get Tavernier high enough in the box by allowing him more freedom at halftime to go make that header, and Roofe, we'll come on to speak about him, but he's the only real player apart from Morelos maybe that scores that goal, getting goal side of the defender as he's ball watching. Maybe argues the point of that he should have been on the pitch earlier on other occasions. But hopefully he can stay fit over the next few weeks, because even if it's just coming off from the bench, he can make a pretty significant impact, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's talk about Kemar Roofe. Jonny, of course, came on, done the business. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst alluded that he has been struggling with an injury, as he has done his pretty much his whole career. But if Rangers can get him fit and firing, he could be massive, couldn't he, for this title run? And I seem to remember last season around this point he was very sharp. He looked sharp when he came on Saturday. Sorry,
he did, and the decision to remove Morelos from the play was roundly booed, but the manager got that right, because ultimately it was Roofe that put the ball in the back of the net, and I think he deserves credit for that. Now, in terms of Roofe, I think he should have been playing more. Now, yes, he's been injured, but for me, he is the best finisher at the club. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Morelos has got some insanely good qualities, but I don't think he's a calm, natural finisher. Personally, that's a huge flaw in his game, and that's why he's still at Rangers. If he was a natural finisher, he would have been gone years ago. I think if you can get Roofe in that team, if you can get Roofe fully fit, he should play where possible. If you can find a way to get him into sort of more like a sort of number 10/9 hybrid role that can get up closer to Morelos, then that's the way to do it. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst hasn't really shown a massive appetite for that, but Scott Arfield's been playing there, and I think Roofe's a better bet. I honestly do. As much as I like Arfield, I'd prefer to see Arfield move one back and Roofe to settle into that position, because one thing Kmart Roofe's going to bring is goals. This is the big thing. I'm going to write a piece on this today, lads. I just think that Rangers don't have enough goals in the team. One of the things that Gerrard did so successfully last year is he realised that, and he went out and he got players that would rack up the numbers no matter what. So Roofe, Defoe, Hadji, they'll all give you a certain amount of numbers, those guys in the team. I mean, obviously, Defoe's at an age where maybe that wasn't going to be the case this season. But last season, it meant that if Morelos went out, you had other options to give you those numbers. And I just think Kent, Morelos, great players, guys. I'm not dissing them as players, but the numbers do speak for themselves. And it's not complex numbers that Josh is going to bamboozle us with. It's straightforward goals and assists. They don't score enough. I'd love to have anyone who disagrees with me come in the comments and we can debate it. But I just think those two, there's no bigger fan than me in terms of how they perform at a European level. But domestically, it's just not good enough.
Yeah. Do you go along with that, Joshua? It's hard to argue with the stats. I know you love your stats, and when it's there in black and white, they aren't producing anywhere near enough at the moment based on the talent that they have. As Jonny says, European-wise, it takes care of itself. You're not really concerned about that because they love playing in that arena. But it's your bread and butter against your likes at Aberdeen, Ross Counties, Hibs, Motherwell, all that sort of stuff that you really are looking to these key guys to produce the goods.
I think Morelos is slightly different because since Van Bronckhorst arrived, I can't remember off the top of my head, but his numbers have improved and he has scored more domestically. But
we have Joshua, but just see for a Rangers number 9, and I know I'm an old bugger, but 12 and 25 is nowhere near good enough for a Rangers number 9. And I know I was spoiled in the era of Ali McCoist and people like that, but and this Scottish football is not a strong league. So you need these guys up the top to really rack up the numbers. And I grew up in an era when players could perform and rack up numbers in the Scottish Premiership, but couldn't translate to Europe. Now we're living in an era where players are better in Europe than they are in the Premiership. And it's, it doesn't really make sense in a lot of ways.
I thought Morelos looked pretty tired. Whether it was tiredness or, I think it was his 6th start in just about 2 weeks, and I think you could tell when he wasn't really closing players down, he looked tired. Kent, absolutely. I think that's, as Jonny says, it's why he's still at Rangers, because his numbers don't always match his performances. And as we've highlighted a number of times in the site, sometimes there is other things that players do well, and there's other things that go under the radar. Things like Kent committing players before a goal will never be in black and white necessarily, but is still significant. There's a reason that he starts every game, but I completely agree that his actual goal and assist return, and it's dropped dramatically. I think in the league it was 18 goals and assists last season off the top of my head, and it's 5 this season. The big one for me, and we've highlighted this over the weekend, and I'm sure we'll be speaking about it over the next few days, is Johnny's right, where the goals are coming from elsewhere. Last season, Hadji and Roofe had 34 goals and assists between them. This season they have 6 between them.
Yeah.
Now they were signed for Gerrard's system, but that's you've not who have you replaced them with?
I think Defoe got 7 as well.
Defoe got and then this season you've got Itten got 6 last season. This season you've got Arfield's got 4, Sakala's got 7, and if you look as we did on the site and as Derek said at the start, you can go and subscribe for £1 and get this podcast and all these articles that we're referencing. Rangers' goals per game is down. The chance creation numbers aren't down. It's their goals per game. It's the actual taking of chances. I think you can fit Roofe in that starting 11 the shape that was kind of seen against Hearts and Hibs. You see the way that Arfield comes in off the right, so he doesn't receive the ball by the touchline like Kent will. But again, we highlight it all the time in our past maps on the site. Rangers like to try and overload the right, stretch play on the left. I think you could fit Roofe within that system, just as he did under Gerrard. When he played as one of Gerrard's 210s, he's not dribbling at fullbacks and beating them and crossing the ball in. and what it does as well is when Rangers do get the ball at the pitch, he can occupy the box. So think of the chance that it was a miss from Arfield, but Elliot Parish saved it, which you told me after, Jonny, because I hadn't realised. The second half at St Johnstone, that's the type of goal that Roofe can be in the box for. Sorry, the type of chance that Roofe can be in the box for. Rangers, I don't think have replaced that enough, and I think that is partly because you've changed manager midway through the season, so the players that are suited for one system aren't necessarily suited for another. But I think what most people are coming to the conclusion is there's just not quite enough goals on the side. And I asked Van Bronckhorst about that on Friday or Thursday, and he made the point of, look, it's not as simple as fielding the best goal scorers. And I agree with him, but equally, the recent performances would suggest that he needs more goal scorers in his team, whether it be bringing Roofe on earlier in games, whether it be accommodating him within the system. I think the weekend definitely showed that he's got a lot of value and should have a lot of value in this team over the next 8 games.
Jonny, Grim's point here, why we're not playing Roofe and Morelos, crying out for during the game on Saturday. I think it's easy to look at that. I'm sure we touched on this earlier on in the season, where I'm not too sure if it was the St Johnstone game away. They were both playing with each other. It just hasn't worked, has it? The experiment hasn't worked. They've been given numerous chances. On paper, it should do, but it just simply doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you have to. I think they can play together when Roofe is playing in a deeper role.
Yeah,
but as a 2, no. It doesn't work. Morelos doesn't play with anyone in a 2. I've never seen anyone work well with Morelos in a 2. The only player in a 2 that can link with Morelos is Kent, because Kent doesn't play as a traditional number 9. You have to leave Morelos central up front, leading the line as a lone battering ram. Anything else with him, they just get in each other's way. He's not used to dovetailing with someone. You remember McCoist and Haitley, the great partnerships of the past, and it really is going back a long time now, because nobody plays really 4-4-2 anymore, certainly not in the traditional sense. They used to always be about interpreting each other's space. So if Haitley came deep, McCoist would go long, and vice versa. They were constantly staying within 15 yards of each other all around the pitch. It was like watching 2 people who had telepathy with each other. Morelos just doesn't. He doesn't have that in him to be that sort of unselfish to say, right, okay, you've gone long, I'm going to drop. Vice versa. From what I've seen when they've played together, and he's played with other people.
Yeah. Joshua, there's a lot of comments coming in with regards to Joe Aribo. I know you asked him about his form before the Aberdeen game, and he was quite candid. He admitted that he hasn't been at his sparkling best since returning from the African Cup of Nations. Again on Saturday, it looks leggy. He's in need of a rest for me to recharge the batteries. It's just about whether Rangers can afford to drop him, because they know what he can bring, but at the moment he's just not giving them what we know he can. I mean, before he went off to compete for Nigeria, he was head and shoulders the best player in Scotland, but now he's just looking a tad jaded.
Yeah, just quickly on Johnny's point of Morelos and Roofe, I agree. I think when they're trying to play up front in the 2, and obviously after the 4-1 win against Celtic last year, that was a lot of people got quite excited about it. I think in specific games, the reason it works is because you have 2 number 9s in the box, 2 finishers. If Roofe can stay a little bit deeper, as he often did in Europe, and receive the ball in those pockets, and look at the way Scott Arfield progresses the ball. Scott Arfield isn't dribbling past 3 players to get the ball at the pitch. He's combining with people and then combining in and around the box. So I think it can work. But I agree that I think the kind of St Johnstone away and St Mirren away examples, they were playing on top of one another and also playing within a team that was flat and lacking width. So I don't think there's enough width in the high areas of the pitch, which impacted them. On Aribo, yeah, I agree. And it was nice to have a player be candid like that, Derek, because quite often you don't get that. I think Aribo comes across as a very genuine guy, and certainly in that response, he seems pretty aware of his own form. I think his numbers are about the same as they were last season, maybe 10 goals and assists. He wants more of them. And that's the difference, Kent and Aribo between them. What's that? Maybe like 14, 15 goals and assists in the Scottish Premiership. That 100% is not enough. Rangers need more from both those players. I thought he still looked tired. I don't know about you guys. Saying that in the lead up to the goal, he still took the ball well and helped that move flow forwards when he moved into before he moved out to the right, I think. But yeah, I don't really know where the rest comes from him for him. I hopefully with Ramsey coming back, that gives him a whether it be a 60 minutes here or a game on the bench there. But he doesn't look quite himself, and I think a lot of his game is based around those short bursts and being able to kind of match up physically with what we know he can do skill wise. And Rangers need him to be back to his best for the last 8 games of the league campaign, because how dependent were they on him when they were playing well before Christmas? That's another factor. You can point at goals, you can point at tempo, you can point at individual mistakes, but I think Joe Aribo is certainly, as you say, Derek, the best player in Scotland and the best player in that Rangers starting 11 for that month period. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as his form has dropped, so is Rangers' form in an attacking sense.
Jonny, good to see Aaron Ramsey back in the matchday squad on Saturday. However, he didn't come on. We're disappointed not to see him again. You're hoping to see him, of course, maybe on Thursday night, but you just don't know, do you?
I mean, yeah, of course. I just don't really understand what's going on with Aaron Ramsey. Obviously, we've got the opportunity to ask about it in the presser on Thursday. Like, where is he, and when can we expect to see him start a game? Because the
time's running out. Yeah,
the process of his acceleration into the first team, and I use the word acceleration with in a measured way. It seems to have been okay. He gets 10 minutes on his debut or whatever, then 20 minutes. Then he gets a start against Annan. There seemed to be a gradual curve in terms of how he was introduced. Whereas now, it just seems to have dropped off a cliff again. And for me, I don't know. Like, personally, if I go out and sign a guy who is a world-leading centre midfielder who plays for Juventus and is on £400,000 a week, and I'm signing him for a team in the Scottish Premiership, I'm putting him in the team when he's able physically to go in the team. I get, like, if he's suffering from injury, so you can't just fling him in, he gets injured again. But if he's fit enough to be on the bench, personally, I'd want Aaron Ramsey fit and firing for this run-in. I mean, Aaron Ramsey has to play. You're Rebo on one side, Aaron Ramsey on the other. We're talking about Rangers lacking goal threat. Well, here's the guy that scored goals at the highest level throughout his career. Here's a guy that goes box to box and is a brilliant finisher. I don't really understand it, other than he must be really suffering with injuries. They must be concerned. I mean, it's a choice the manager's made. It's nothing to do with the club. It's the manager's clearly got this. He just doesn't want to put him in for 10 minutes or whatever against Aberdeen because of the game state. But I think it's really disappointing, because I think every Rangers fan, everybody covering Rangers, we were all excited by the signing. I was so shocked that Rangers were able to get it over the line, injury record or not. And then for it to have gone the way it's gone so far, and as you say, Derek, you hit the nail on the head. Time is running out.
Yeah.
I don't know what the future holds for Aaron Ramsey, but based on what we've seen in a Rangers shirt, in terms of how the manager is using him, it doesn't look like he's going to be ready, anytime soon.
No, certainly the jury is out on that one. Okay, folks, we'll call it a day there. Thanks to everyone, as ever, for interacting with the programme. It really is much appreciated. Remember, we've got that outrageously good offer on the Rangers Review site just now. It's just £1 for 2 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. You'll find content about Rangers that you won't find anywhere else in the media just now. So I'd really urge you to go and check it out. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow morning. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday.